All right, welcome to another Friday night episode of Keto Rocks Radio. I'm Jim Hobbs, and down below is my carnivore co-host, Mr. Brian Damage Forsythe of the band Kix and Rhino Bucket. And again, he is wearing another Rolling Stone concert jersey. Oh, look at that. Totally patriotic today.
This is one of the ones I found in my mother's attic that I didn't even remember that I had. It's from 1981. It's the first Stones concert I went to.
Oh, wow. Well, then that's got significant meaning to it for you.
Yeah.
It looks brand new. You must never worn it.
I was in a box. I had a t-shirt version that I used to wear, or the 81. Yeah. From that same concert. And I still had that. And I just didn't realize I had bought this too. So
now the 81 concert, was that at RFK or Cap Center?
Capitol Center.
Okay. Who opened up for them in 81?
George Thorogood.
Wow. Perfect. Well, we have a returning guest to the show. He has just founded a new channel that will be beneficial to all of you who watch our channel, Carnivore News Network. And Mr. Steve Conover, welcome back, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Good to see everybody.
Yeah, a lot of things are happening. You've been busy with digesting a lot of information, and why don't you tell everybody, since the last time we had you on, the transformation that's taking place in your life and full-blown carnivore and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I've got 3 kids that we adopted through foster care, and I only mention that because they all have emotional issues. So the last 2 years with COVID have been very, very stressful with homeschooling, not homeschooling, masks, no masks, all the stuff, right? And I haven't, through the last 2 years, I haven't fought the battle with food here in the house. And so I kind of went dirty keto, basically, for the last 2 years. And I discovered that doesn't work for me. And I put on about 15, 18 pounds, probably closer to 20, because in the last 7 weeks, I've dropped 15 pounds going back full carnivore. And through that process, I follow some guys, probably you guys do too, Dr. Barry, Dr. Chafee, Sean Baker, others. But that requires a lot of time. So, and I was talking to some people about, because they'll say, aren't you worried about this, that, and the other thing, going carnivore and all this stuff? And I say, well, that what you believe about fat and protein, turns out it isn't true. And I'll just rattle off some stuff from studies, and then they all just look at me like, are you sure about that? And then I realized people don't do what we do.
Yeah.
People don't research, people don't watch 2 hour long carnivore videos from doctors and digest all the stuff. So I said, you know what? Now, because I'm here a lot. I'm like a stay-at-home dad, work from home, still have issues with the kids, even though they're back at school. And I said, I'll just start a little YouTube channel, Instagram channel, TikTok channel called Carnivore News Network. And I'll just do little 3-minute TikToks and share them to Instagram and YouTube with a green screen of a study, and just quickly do the summary of the study and add my 2 cents to it, basically. So that's kind of the concept. One of the things Jim's going to add to this, I shot him a couple screenshots. One of the things that's fairly recent is they're now starting to do real studies about people who eat a carnivore diet, people who eat a lot of saturated fat, formerly the boogeyman, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I shot Jim over a couple screenshots on was one study recently, and you can research this on the NIH or what's the study? It's an NIH site, but there's another name for it. But when Jim puts the stuff up, you'll see. But they did a study of 140,000
PubMed.gov.
Huh?
PubMed.gov. Is that what you're thinking of?
PubMed.gov. But this was also published in JAMA and was actually paid for by the American Heart Association. Shockingly enough, I'm not their fan. And they looked at 140,000 people who were hospitalized for cardiovascular disease. Now, this should be a really interesting group of people, right? And surely 140,000 people hospitalized for cardiovascular disease all had high LDL cholesterol levels, right?
That's what most people would think, yes.
Yeah. Half of them had LDL cholesterol levels under 60. So if we're going to follow science, like a lot of people have learned how to say over the last 2 years, I'm following the science. So if we're going to follow the science, there's a large study that shows LDL cholesterol levels have no association with cardiovascular disease. I'm going to say that again. LDL cholesterol levels have no association with cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
And if you're a scientist, if there's no association, guess what's impossible? Causation.
Yeah.
It's science. So that was a huge one for me. And the first one I'm going to put up later today is that on TikTok and then everywhere else. So if you're looking for me, the channel's already on YouTube and it's already on Instagram. There's just not much there, but we'll be on TikTok today because I'm going to use their cool little 3-minute platform and green screen to do all my videos. But what's really significant in that same study, guys, is that less than 10% of them, so less than 10% of the 140,000 people had HDL levels in a low range. And I forget what that range is, but it'll be on whatever Jim shares. So here's what we do know from that study. LDL had nothing to do with cardiovascular disease. However, healthy levels of HDL have everything to do with cardiovascular disease. Mm-hmm. Well, Jim's going to put up right after this another study that showed what causes HDL to be low, and that's inflammation in the body. Mm-hmm. Now, on that same site, I challenge everybody to put in fructose, glucose, and inflammation and see what you get.
Yep.
So, and the fact that seed and vegetable oils dramatically reduce LDL cholesterol, which again has nothing to do with coronary artery disease, but are very highly inflammatory and reduce your HDL. So Houston, we have a problem, don't we? That not only does getting on statins reduce HDL, which is causatory in coronary artery disease, and they tell you to get off of saturated fat and go to polyunsaturated fake oils, seed oils and vegetable oils, which are inflammatory and reduce HDL. And they tell you to eat a diet high in carbohydrates. And then some doctors will pretend like they're smart and say, well, just eat low glycemic vegetables and fruits, and they'll be happy with you chowing down on the bananas, cramming fructose into your body, which are all highly inflammatory. So, you know, this is the perfect example of what I want to start sharing, because I know people don't have the time. I only have the time because of my situations, and I can do it. But I just want to create a platform where in 3 minutes you can get a nugget to share with your doctor, to share with your friends and anybody else who's still, like you talked to Carrie about, are under the control of this thought form that was hatched by Ansel Keys and then the FDA and the pharmaceutical industry in the 70s, that people still believe the opposite of what is true. And the opposite of what is true is that for millions of years, humans have thrived on animal fat and protein.
Yeah.
And here's another doozy that I'll end up sharing. Since the agricultural revolution started in the late 1800s, the human brain has shrunk 11%. And carnivores don't have that problem. So there's a, this is, we're in this battle of information, right, with social media. We're doing this podcast to try to help people. And I'm just looking for, and let's face it, people are lazy. One of the side effects of the thought form of the white coat syndrome is not doing your own research and depending on the white coats for everything, right? Yeah. So I just hope that putting up 3-minute videos, providing the studies, providing a little bit of anecdotal feedback on my part will help people in the long run be able to navigate this, be able to not combat the people, because one of the problems when people do, even if you do watch a Dr. Berry hour-long video and you get really fired up about proper human nutrition and how that is somewhere in the range from the lion diet to keto and how you find that out, when you go to start that process, your family, your friends, your coworkers are all saying what?
Yeah.
You're going to die, dude. So the purpose of the Carnivore News Network is to really give people, even if they just say, hey, check out the Carnivore News Network on TikTok, because most of them are on there, right? And watch some videos about some studies, and we'll see how that works out for you.
Well, we've talked about that, the American Heart Association and the studies in which they give their stamp of approval to a bunch of stuff that's not in your best interest, in my opinion. And the reality of it is, I hear what you're saying, Stephen, and look, I'm in agreement with what you're saying. It's just mind-boggling and baffling to me that a species, the human beings, have been walking this earth and have been, everything points that we were carnivores, that we eat meat, and somehow we are now in 2022 pushing the opposite of a carnivore lifestyle and pushing seed, plant protein and seed oils, and yet I'm almost ecstatic and giddy that I hate to say the enemy, but the opposition is actually posting a real study to back up what we already knew to be true. I mean, Brian's known it for a long time. He's lived it out every time he gets his cholesterol tested. Luckily for him, and Brian, don't you have an inner peace regardless of what the white coat's telling you? Like
yeah. I mean, it's funny. Yeah, they're trying to get my lab results. There's always flashing red lights around my cholesterol. But yeah, and then then I go get a CAC score test, and
it's 0.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, and my LDL is up in the 700s. So,
but where's your HDL?
It's right around 100, I think. It used to be higher. It actually came down for some reason. I don't know why, but I was messing with my diet right before my last lab test to see if I could tweak the results, which is stupid. And I think I tweaked them in the wrong direction, but I have to go back in. I haven't done it in almost 2 years now. So,
well, the Inuits and the Maasai have been eating this way for, like I said, millions of years. And they have no coronary artery disease, and their cholesterol is off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff, doctors would swear that they're all going to die, and they're all just
That's
CAC scores is 0. But, you know, one of the things that the American Heart Association does, and whether this is intentional or not, I don't know, but they do all their studies to show correlation between pharmaceuticals and diet and lowering LDL cholesterol under the assumption that LDL cholesterol means anything.
Right.
As far as coronary artery disease goes. Meanwhile, the other studies are showing it means nothing as far as coronary artery disease goes. So if you don't know that, you'll see something like that, and it appears to be, it's American Heart Association, right? It's a study. They're saying that statins and seed oils lower LDL cholesterol, and they're right. Unfortunately, it also kills you.
Yeah. It raises the triglycerides too, which is, that's really the, that the triglycerides are
and
really
it lowers
important.
it lowers your HDL, which is the only thing you should really look at in a cholesterol screen.
Well, both triglycerides and HDL, that those numbers are the ones, but doctors don't even look at those, because there's like somebody I just heard on a podcast recently pointed out, that's because there's no drug that can fix those numbers. So they only have a drug for LDL. So that's what they.
Well, I would argue that saturated fat is the only drug that can do anything about those levels.
True.
So call it a drug if you want to. And then the other really cool thing for everybody watching, if you just want, I'm assuming most people watching this are carnivores or keto, and they won't lose their mind about this, but if you go on YouTube and search for a video called "Plants Are Trying to Kill You."
Oh yeah, Dr. Chaffee.
Yeah, and just really listen to that. And I had never, until I watched that video, Brian, I didn't know what an oxalate was, and I've been doing keto and carnivore for a while. I didn't know what oxalates were, but and if you don't watch that. And this is a future video I'm going to do, short one, on oxalates and what they are and why plants have them, because they don't want to be eaten by people. So forget whether or not people want to eat plants. Plants don't want people to eat plants. Or they wouldn't make oxalates, which are toxic to humans. So, it gets back to the things Dr. Baker talks about all the time, which is, kidney beans, people will tell you that kidney beans are healthy.
But if you don't cook
them. Well, even though they have lectin, lots of lectin, but they have quote unquote protein, right? But like you just said, if you eat 6 kidney beans raw, and guess what happens? You die.
Yeah.
Well,
what's that saying?
they're full of but Brian, they're full of nutrients.
Yeah.
They got protein, but the one thing that the plant people, the vegans and the plant protein people won't tell you, whether they know this or not, I don't know, probably do. But what they won't tell you about plant protein, plant-based protein, is it's 80% unavailable to human biology.
Right.
Because the 80% of plant protein is just nitrogen. So when somebody tells you, I get all the protein I need out of plants, really? Then why are you wasting away? Why is your bone density decreasing dramatically? So I'm going to leave y'all with this, because I got to run walk some dogs. But I just recently did a podcast with Carrie, that husband that you guys just had on the spiritual side of things. But I did an analogy, a spiritual analogy with diet. And I said, wouldn't it be weird if, because people tell me all the time, I just can't stand the thought of eating an animal, right? That thought paralyzes people. It has a face. It's sentient. It feels pain. All the things, right? And I said, wouldn't it be weird if somebody said, or, and then they say, I just think God doesn't want me to eat animals. That's why I feel that way. That's their conclusion. And I said, okay, wouldn't it be weird if a human said, I just think in my heart that God wants me to fly, even though I don't have feathers. And I go up to my rooftop every day and jump off and attempt to fly. Meanwhile, the reality of science and this thing called gravity crashes me to the ground, and I break bones and have other injuries and have bruises all over my body. And for whatever reason, as far as diet goes, that's literally what we're talking about. That for millions of years, humans thrived, our brains expanded, our bodies got bigger, stronger, faster, our brains got smarter. We developed language, technology, all eating fat. Fat is, for millions of years, fat was the number one nutrient dense food of hominids, humans, of whatever kind. And then animal protein was next. And then in cases of starvation, they ate fruits, nuts, and green leafy vegetables to not starve to death. That's how it was for millions of years. Then Ansel Keys comes along, does what he does with the sugar industry and the FDA and the American Heart Association. And all of a sudden we flip that upside down. And now the starvation diet has become the healthy diet, and the primal thriving diet has become the boogeyman. And my goal is just to present that in the best way that I can.
Well, I hope people will tune in for 3 minutes, because we're all about telling people that you got to take the power back by educating yourself and researching on your own, and question everything that you've been told. Question everything, and because just because somebody in a white coat is telling you to do something doesn't mean it's in your best interest to do it. We're all kids, and we've all heard this from our parents. From one, well, why'd you do it? Well, Johnny did it. Well, if Johnny jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? Well, that's, that was great advice that we were given, that question from our parents to jump us out of using that as an excuse. But yet we get older and, well, why are you taking a statin drug? Well, because Johnny, who's become a doctor, told me to. Well, if Johnny jumped off a bridge, would you? And unfortunately, the majority of people who are going to go see Dr. Johnny these days are taking that advice of jumping off the bridge, when the reality of it is, do what your mom and your dad said to you. Don't do it because he's doing it. Do it because it's the right thing for you. So you need to go out there and research and question what little Johnny, who's now grown into a Dr. Johnny, has told you to do. Go out there and do your own research and find out what works for you and your body. And we think, at least I know when I did that, my life totally changed. And all you're doing is getting back to what you were meant to be in the first place, which is a carnivore. All right, it's that time of the evening where we check in with Mr. Brian Shanker of the Meat Tribe channel to give us those meat deals of the week. And hey, happy National Prime Rib Day, Brian.
Is it?
Yes.
I always miss that.
So, Mr. Shanker, what do you got for us this week?
All right, guys. We've got a couple of deals out of Carnes Quality Food Services out of Central PA. Their deal runs through May 2nd. They've got a prime grade boneless steakhouse sirloin steaks for $7.49 per pound. They also have some choice grade bone-in short ribs for $5.99 per pound. Food Lion's got a couple of deals running through May 3rd. They've got their 73% lean ground beef for $2.99 per pound, and some sirloin steaks, choice grade boneless, for $7.99 per pound. Giant Eagle's got a deal that runs through May 4th. It's a certified Angus beef boneless half strip loin for $8.99 per pound. And I saved the best for last.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Let's hear
it. Harris Teeter.
There we go.
Their deals run through May 3rd. They've got their boneless ribeye steaks on sale. So ribeye steaks and roasts are on sale. Now they updated their website. So The small pack and the value pack didn't say ribeye steaks or roasts, but the choice grade did. So the rancher grade ribeye steak value pack is $7.99 per pound. The small pack rancher grade is $8.49 per pound. And if you want to jump up to choice grade, that's $8.99 per pound. So only $1 more than the rancher grade. And they also
that's worth celebrating right there.
that is. I've been waiting for those to come back around because I've missed them the last 2 times. I do prefer boneless ribeyes to the bone-in. 2 more deals that they have. They've got a grass-fed Strauss boneless New York strip steak. It's a 10-ounce steak. It's $9.99 per package. And then they also have a 16-ounce package of Snake River Farms American Wagyu ground beef for $7.99 per pound. So not a lot of deals, but some good deals.
The deal, boneless ribeyes, everybody, boneless ribeyes. So yes, Harris Teeter will be visited by
And
me.
make sure you leave some for me because I am going this time.
There you go. There you go. Brian, you don't have any Harris Teeters down in Nashville, do you?
No, I thought I saw one at one point when I looked at the map thing, but then I think the closest is like Atlanta or somewhere, or maybe South Carolina. I don't
Well,
know.
you may have to bring a suitcase with dry ice because is there a Harris Teeter in Winchester area, Brian? Steve?
No, we just have Martin's and Food Line.
Sorry, Brian. I was gonna say, Lee, you can run in there, grab some, throw them on dry ice, and take them back home with you.
Well, you'll be in Columbia, Maryland soon for M3. So I'm sure there's a Harris Teeter between where you're staying.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know how.
Anyway,
I don't know about flying with dry ice though.
Is that allowed? I don't know.
I don't know.
I just use those freezer packs and put it in a insulator bag.
So,
nice.
Anyway, well, thanks for those deals of the week. We'll look forward to seeing you next Friday. And in the interim, how does people reach out to see the other deals that you post on your channel throughout the week? How can they reach you?
Yep. So I do my longer update on my channel, Meat Tribe, on YouTube, and then I post a link to it to the Meat Tribe Facebook page.
Sounds good. Well, have a great week. We'll see you next Friday.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
And I'll just close with this. If what you're doing, if you're thriving in whatever it is that you're doing dietarily, exercise, whatever, lifestyle, if you're thriving, if your muscle density is not decreasing, if your bone density is not decreasing, if your cognitive ability is not decreasing, if you're able to move and exercise without pain, if you don't have any inflammatory issues, by all means, keep doing what you're doing, because I don't literally care what anybody eats, to be honest with you. But for those of you who are doing the opposite of what I just said, your bone density is decreasing, your muscle density is decreasing, your cognitive ability is decreasing, your sleep sucks, your hormones are out of whack, you're inflamed, you're in pain. If you're that person, tune in.
Well, that's the tricky part about it too, is, you know, it kills you over the long span. And you know, most people, if you eat something and you're fine, you don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's that constant, you know, just over the years build up until stuff starts going wrong, you know. That's why it's so hard for people to grasp that, you know.
It is, because starving to death over a 40, 50 year period is ugly. It's, you know, it's kind of like the nutritional boiling the frog thing.
Yeah. I was going to say, I have this a good friend of mine that I know from LA. He's an older guy, and he's starting to have like horrendous health problems, and he's been a vegan for years. And, you know, it's like, he knows that I'm a carnivore too, because he'll joke about it. Like, what kind of meat are you cooking today? You know, but I feel so bad for him because, you know, he thinks he's doing the right thing, you know, being a vegan. And I mean, literally it's killing him. And it's so sad.
It
Yeah,
is. Thought forms are powerful.
Yeah, truth doesn't care what you think.
Right.
Truth is going to play out regardless of what you think of it, and it is what it is. And so that's, you know, those thought forms that get planted in us, and we don't question those thought forms, like your buddy not questioning why he went vegan, and look at the results, because as Steve just said, in most of what the studies that I've seen, being a vegan cannot sustain you long term. At some point, the wheels are going to fall off. You're going to start devouring yourself. You're going to be eating yourself to survive. And then when the wheels come off, it's almost too late, because you got nothing to be able to build from.
It is. And, you know, the only thing that I've found that works in the dietary religion category and in the spiritual religion category is just simply ask people, if you were wrong, would you even want to know? Because most of them would say no, and you can't do anything there.
Yeah.
But if they say, well, yeah, I'd want to know, and then you have a place to start a conversation with little tiny baby steps.
Hey, Steve, I know you got to run, but could you stay over just 2 more minutes? Because you said something the other day in our discussion I think would be beneficial to people in regards to fasting and, can you share that? Because that's powerful.
Yeah. So fasting is when people don't eat because they're hungry. Carnivores don't eat because they're not hungry. And they're two very different things. Carnivores don't eat because the default position for a carnivore that's fat adapted, fully fat adapted, is a fasted state perpetually, regardless of whether they eat or not. So if you're consuming carbohydrates at all, you have to fast, or else the glucose will never come out of your system. But a full carnivore, especially somebody that eats a lion diet, water, red meat, and salt, don't have to fast ever, because they're constantly in a fasted state. Autophagy happens perpetually. Bad cells, toxins are perpetually removed when you're in a fasted state. So that's a pretty important distinction, because intermittent fasting is a big, big subject. And not that a carnivore can't get any benefits from fasting or intermittent fasting. If you do fasted resistance training, like I just started doing, that's very beneficial. So that's the reason why I don't eat now until after my X-Bar 3 Elite came in today. If y'all don't have one, you need to get one.
I've been doing that for a while.
You got one, Brian?
Oh yeah.
So I'm not ever going to eat until after I do that. And it's just because that's HIIT training and resistance training in one 10-minute workout. It's pretty insane. You don't know how insanely tiring it is until you do it. It'll freak you out. But the reason why this is so powerful is it's just that little switch between, do I have to fast, or is fasting good for me? They're really two different subjects. But I'll just say it again, because a smart guy once told me, tell people what you're going to tell them about, tell them what you're going to tell them about, then tell them what you just told them about. Is that fasting is for people who are hungry because they have sugar in their body. That's why you're hungry. And intermittent fasting is specifically for people who are still eating carbohydrates. Meanwhile, a carnivore is perpetually in a fasted state, receiving the same benefits, but for a different reason, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, for me, I had a couple of different reasons for the intermittent fasting, and mostly to break the habit of snacking. And I wasn't snacking because I was hungry. I was bored, or it's just a habit. Yeah. So that helped me break that habit, so I don't have to eat in between meals.
Well, and the number one problem for a carnivore, a real carnivore that's not hungry, is eating enough calories.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the number one problem.
I found that out too about a year into it. I was like, man, what is wrong with me? Why am I so like just feeling like I was dragging?
Yep.
And then I just bumped up my protein intake, and all of a sudden, boom, oh. So.
And by the way, here's another quick tip for all of you who do work out that are carnivores. If you drink your water and salt, if you use Redmond's electrolyte mix or just Redmond salt and water, like a good 20-24 ounces of water before you work out, it's the best pre-workout you can do, because what happens is when you do that intense workout, your body sends an insane amount of blood to the muscles, and it literally robs it from your vital organs. If you drink that pre-workout drink of water and salt, your body converts that into new blood.
Yeah, it increases blood volume. Yeah.
Yeah, increases your blood volume, and not only do you get more blood to your muscles, which will help you build muscle and lots of other good things, you don't have that post-workout collapse that you otherwise would have, that for a lot of carnivores will have you craving carbohydrates, thinking that that's going to fix it. It won't. It'll give you a sugar rush, and it'll send a bunch of glucose to your muscles, which may help alleviate some of that loss in blood volume. And then you'll start another chain reaction problem. So that's my workout tip. Pre-workout, 24 to 36 ounces of water, lots of salt is the best pre-workout you can do as a carnivore or a keto person.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing those tidbits. And if people want to hear more of those tidbits, go to Steve's channel, Carnivore News Network. He's on TikTok, YouTube,
Instagram.
So anyway, well, thanks, brother, for coming on. Go take care of those dogs, and we'll see you around.
They're wanting in.
All right, go take care of them. Great to have you back on. All right,
Good to see you.
Well, that was pretty interesting, Brian.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, it's amazing that we're seeing a study now that actually is showing what we already have found on our own, that there's literally no correlation between your the cholesterol myth and heart attacks. And so to see that play out that's a pretty large sampling, 140,000 people. That's a pretty large sample.
Yeah, that's one of the most asked questions that I get about my diet is like, how's your cholesterol? You know, everybody, and then people will say, well, yeah, I do this and it lowered my cholesterol. I go, well, you know,
I hope that's good for you.
Mean anything.
Right.
Yeah. Or I'll go, what is your HDL to triglyceride ratio? And they'll go, they don't even know what a triglyceride is. And I'm like, that's the most important part of it. If you don't look at that, then it doesn't even matter what you're looking at. But, you know, it's hard to tell people that because, well, for one thing, I'm not a doctor, but I've done on so much research. You know, I did that because I want to know what they're telling me. I'm not going to just take their word for it. So, you know, and so when you try to tell somebody else that, and that it's obvious I'm not a doctor, they're going to go, oh, you know, of course, you know, like my mom even used to.
Right.
Like she just didn't believe me.
Well, you know,
she would get those little pamphlets in the mail from, you know, AARP or one of those little health pamphlets that tells you like eat more whole grains and fruits and oatmeal in the morning, and you know, all the bad advice that the, you know, American Heart Association puts out there. And she loved to just throw that at me just to see my reaction, because she knew I was like horrified.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, because if you're, you know, if you didn't know any better, it would scare you to death to read what you're doing, because you're going against the opposite of what they're telling you to do. And so that's why, you know, we have to get out of letting other people think for us. We have to think for ourselves. We have to take that power back. Like, you don't want to stop thinking. And you know, Steve was sharing with the whole over the course of time, that the more we've gone agriculture, the more we're eating grains and seeds and getting away from meat, how much our brain has shrunk. And so the fact that, you know, human beings back in the cavemen were carnivores, and their brains, which is fat and consumes fat and is made up of fat, in order to get you to fire at all cylinders, we really are not by going a plant protein or a vegetarian, we literally are starving our brain. And we got to reverse that. We have to reverse that for a multitude of reasons. One is, you know, you want to be in control of your life and not give control, no matter what area it is. I don't care what area it is. You want to be in control of it, because at the end of the day, you're the one responsible for the gift of life, and you want to be able to maximize that gift, just not give it to somebody because they went to a doctor and was taught by somebody. Look, everybody that's watching this, you could have become an MD. You could have been taught the same thing they've been taught. Just because you're taught something doesn't mean it's right for you or it's the truth. You know, the old adage of being told a lie, and then that gets told to somebody else, you know, told enough times, it becomes what's perceived to be as a fact. But that's not true. That's why you should question everything, regardless if it comes from your own mom or it comes from the doctor that you're meeting with. Just question everything, and then you'll know when you find the truth, because it will manifest itself over time. Just like Brian said earlier, you know, the problem is, you know, eating a bowl of oatmeal one morning may taste great. You may feel good, but you don't know what it's doing to your body. And it's going to be those slight changes over time. That's where you'll start to see what the truth of how good oatmeal or it wasn't good for you starts to manifest itself, just like his friend in California with the vegetarian. Yes, I'm sure he did believe he was doing the right thing, and that's the issue. You may think you're doing the right thing, but truth doesn't care what you think. And so,
and Dr. Berry, actually, he said this multiple times. You know, somebody going from a standard American diet to like a vegan diet, of course they're going to feel good because they've gotten rid of all the crap, processed stuff, and then they start eating good food. You know, it'll make you feel good right off the bat. The thing is, it's the long term, and that's the other thing about a vegan diet. It's not like not that I would do it, but I have read that it for like a short term, it's really good for detoxifying your organs and all that stuff. Like if you wanted to go on it for like a month, it's actually good for you because it'll get all that stuff out of your body. But then you have to switch back and go back to the real nutrients, or you're just gonna, you're just gonna keep starving after that, because you're basically, you're starving.
Yeah, I tell you what, Peggy and I went down the vegan. We watched, I forget what movie it was, that documentary. I think it was Fork Over Knives that we watched probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. It's a long time ago. And it caused us to go down the vegan path for a while. And you're right, Brian. That's exactly what now Peggy's experience was different than my experience. My experience was I felt energy. I felt clean. I felt energized. I felt great. And probably for those reasons that you gave. But the other part of it was because we were literally at that point eating organic vegetables and grilling them on the grill, and you're getting back to a organic way of eating,
Yeah.
which is good. And you're not having the processed foods because you're eliminating the processed food. So I think that's where you notice the difference of getting the processed crap out of your body. But at some point you're really hungry from the standpoint that you need more protein, real protein, for your body to function on. And that's when we went back to eating keto carnivore. And,
Well, the other thing is too, a lot of times a vegan will start out eating the good food, and then they just sort of transition into eating the vegan processed food, the stuff that's labeled vegan.
Right.
Which is
it's funny you say that, because that's exactly what happened to me. After a while, you're just like, okay, because you're really craving meat. So we would have those vegan burgers. I'd buy the vegan burgers and the tofu, and
so at least looks like you're eating meat, but your mind is thinking, oh, tricking your body.
It tricks the eyes, but the mind's not fooled by it. The body goes, oh, no, this is not, we need real meat.
Yeah, your body's like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah. So, but it's interesting, and right now I think we're in such a in 2022, I definitely see the push for plant protein, because it's everywhere on the shelves now. And you almost got to really plan ahead to find real meat. And meat prices are, of course, just going up. I'm very excited about the meat deals that we heard from Mr. Brian Shanker about Harris Teeter ribeyes going on sale. I definitely will be paying a visit to Harris Teeter and restocking our freezer, or at least a part of it if I got room for it. But it is something that you do got to question, why was all this pushed on us? Why was all this pushed on us? And when you start to go do your own research, I think you'll kind of start to see there's definitely, I'm not going to go down the conspiracy trail, but you do got to question, somebody's doing this for a profit, and for creating their own economy.
Oh yeah, it's all based on profit.
Because it just doesn't make sense that almost anything that's something simple, like, if you just want to get cashews or almonds, that you pick up and it should just be almonds and sea salt, or cashews and sea salt, but you almost every time you're going to see it being covered in canola oil, sunflower oil. There's some other oil, seed oil, that they're putting on that, which is basically a toxin to your body. And it was funny because I was watching a clip. I don't know how recent this was or how far ago, but someone sent me a clip. It was Ellen DeGeneres. She had somebody who had a vegan husky, that the dog would only eat vegan food. So they were putting the dog to the test. So they brought out the vegan food, and she was saying, yes, my dog won't touch meat. And then they brought out real food, and the husky walked out on live TV and started devouring the real meat bowl. And she was so embarrassed. I'm like, the dog finally has a choice, and he's showing you what choice he wants. He wants real meat, real protein.
If you give the dog a vegan meal and nothing else, of course it's going to eat it because it's starving.
Yeah. But she thought he would not eat meat. She said, oh, he's a vegan dog. But on live television, when it put to the test, he went straight to the real meat.
Well, see, this should be considered animal cruelty when a vegan pushes their thing onto their pet like that. That is terrible. That's horrible.
Yeah. The thing is, Peggy and I talk about it all the time, and Peggy's in the kitchen right now cooking Slinky's weekly rations of homemade food for him. And his coat is so shiny. He's so energized. He's the perfect weight. He never gets sick, knock on wood. He's just a picture of health. And you can tell the difference in his coat versus somebody who's feeding, them the processed pet food that's sold in your stores. Even if it's like, one of the higher brands, the higher rated brands, they got carrots and they got, different vegetables, include peas and carrots. And if you were with your dog out in the wild, your dog's not going to go dig up a carrot to eat or eat peas. Just not going to touch it.
Yeah, when I worked at the pet clinic, yeah, there were so many diet related problems. And even I was it Dr. Berry mentioned, you know, an animal in the wild that, you know, a regular, like a wolf or something, you never, I forget what it was. Was it, well, what's happening are, you know, like dogs, they're coming down with human diseases now because they're eating this processed dog food that has grains and corn, all the stuff that's killing us. It's now killing people's pets. And if that dog were in the wild, it would not have any of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's why I think like you start to see dogs with tumors and all that. It's just
right. Yeah.
So it is. Well, anyway, so what do you got planned this weekend, Brian? Where's Kix or Rhino Bucket planned? Where you guys on tour this weekend?
Yeah, Kix, we're playing New Jersey on Friday, and which when this airs will be tonight. And then Winchester, Virginia on Saturday.
All right. Well, we're going to try to see you in Winchester. So okay. We will do our best to get there. And what time do you know what time you go on Winchester?
I can look. Hang on. I got the schedule in my notes. Find it here. Winchester. Sound check. Oh, the Road Ducks are playing with us. We go on at 9. 9.
Okay. Perfect. I'll stay awake. Try to stay awake to 9 to catch you guys. Anyway, well, listen, if you guys have made it this far along in the show, I'm always going to ask Brian one simple question that helps benefit you out there to maximize your immune system and to make your body stronger. What bit of advice would you give someone, Brian?
I would say, eat your meat.
Please eat your meat. So anyway, glad to be able to spend a Friday night with you guys. We look forward to seeing you guys next Friday. Thanks for tuning in. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and stay out of the hospital. We'll see you, everybody.
See ya.
It hasn't missed a day in 5 billion years. It shows up every morning, right on time. And in 1 hour, it creates enough energy to power the lives of every human on Earth for a year. That's what you get when you're the sun's favorite planet. Not just enough energy, but more than enough. Clean, renewable energy that never runs out. Solar power is no longer an experiment. It's reliable and ready and more practical than ever. It's a new day for solar power. A day Enphase has been working toward from the start. Pioneering solar and battery systems that let people make, use, save, and sell their power. Putting solar power within reach for more people than ever before. And there's plenty more where that came from. For example, in the last 60 seconds, the sun created enough energy to power the state of Texas for 10 years. We can work with that.